I recently remembered a really scary thing that happened when I was in high school. I was living at home with my parents, and I believe I was about 16 at the time. So I remember that my parents were gone for the night and I was at home by myself. At probably around 9 o'clock, our dog found me and then ran to the door, indicating that he wanted to go outside. When this happened, one of us would usually put him on his leash and then take him out into the yard. He was a small dog, so he would just do his business and maybe chase a squirrel and then go back inside. Sometimes we would let him roam around a little bit. So I took him outside on this night to the spot where I normally did. Our yard did not have fences, which was the main reason why we would always take him out on a leash. The yard also went right up to this road that was not the typical neighborhood road. It was a little bit busier, mainly during the day obviously, but it was a little bit higher up from our yard, and it had a speed limit of like 35, which is kind of fast for a street that you live off of. Plus, it was very narrow. There was like no space at all from the road to the yard, so it was a little weird, but I got used to it. Anyways, I took the dog to the spot in the yard that was kind of off to the side of the house but also in front of it. It was a quiet night by now. After being outside for maybe a minute or so, I saw headlights in the distance and a car then drove past. This was not unusual, but it always felt like cars were really close with how the road was to the yard. My dog still wanted to be outside and he was sniffing stuff and walking around, and I didn't mind being outside for a bit as it was nice out. So maybe a minute later, a car came from the other direction. This wasn't unusual until as it was passing by, I realized that it was the same car from before. Now that was a little strange, but still not the weirdest thing. However, maybe less than a minute after that, the car drove by again, this time a little bit slower. It was really dark out and the windows were somewhat tinted, so I could not see who exactly was driving. However, I didn't recognize the car at all, and it was a new-looking white-colored SUV. After driving by slowly, I saw it go down the street a short ways and then turn into a neighbor's driveway. By now, I kind of had a bad feeling about it. I wasn't sure if this person was just lost or what, but when I saw them starting to back up into a neighbor's driveway, I knew they were going to turn around and come back down the street again. I had enough. I decided to just go back inside. My dog didn't want to go in yet, but I tugged on his leash and we quickly walked back to the house. I got to the door just as the SUV was now starting to drive back towards our house. When I got inside, I watched from the window as it passed by very slow. But then, the car surprisingly turned into our driveway. As much as I had been maybe overly suspicious by going inside, I was now completely shocked to see this. I didn't really think that the car was going to go to our house. At that point, I quickly locked the door and then closed the blinds of it. I went into the living room and thankfully the other windows were covered. But I heard the sound of a car door opening and closing and I got really nervous. However, moments later, I heard the sound of the car driving away. So I was curious and I went over to a window. By the time I moved the blinds enough to see, the car was now gone and I didn't see anyone. So I was thinking and hoping that they left. I had no idea why they turned into our driveway, and I didn't know why I heard the door opening and closing, but I was glad that they were seemingly gone. I was actually starting to feel a little better about this whole thing. But then I heard the sound of a knock on the back door to our house. That sound made me extremely nervous and scared. I didn't dare go back there. Why would somebody be knocking on the back door? I went to the phone and I called my parents. Meanwhile, whoever was there knocked again. I told my parents that somebody was at the back door, and they said not to answer it and they would come home now. They said that I should call the police. So I got off the phone with my parents to call the cops, but at that point, I no longer heard the knocking. It had stopped sometime in the 2 or 3 minute phone call with my parents. The person had knocked maybe a total of 3 or 4 times and then stopped. After not hearing anything now for a few minutes, I hoped once again that they had left. So I carefully made my way over to a back window and looked out. When I did not see anything. Of course, it was very dark out, and there was also trees back there and stuff, but it made me feel better now to see that there was no longer somebody at the back door to the house, and I didn't see them anywhere else either. So I decided not to call the cops and just wait for my parents to get home. Things were fine for the next half hour or so. I didn't hear anything. Then my parents arrived back. They entered the house, and they said that when they pulled into the driveway, they saw a man running out of the backyard. When I heard that, it really freaked me out. That meant that whoever had knocked on the back door did not actually leave the yard. They were there the entire time. But when my parents got home, they finally left. My dad went out and looked around, but whoever was there was no longer in sight. They could have gone anywhere though. I still have no idea who was driving the car or who was in the backyard. It must have been 2 people if one of them drove away and the other then went into the backyard. But it was really creepy.